Act 4. Happy Easter, everybody. I'm going to celebrate Easter in the James Talarico way. By that, I mean by doing something totally non-Christian. I have a story to tell, and this is going to be a bit of an open letter. This one's an open letter to James Talarico and Neil Gaiman and other spiritual perverts. I think any spiritual pervert, anyone like that, would love this story. It's a story, it's from the Maidu people of northeastern California, and the story is called Mad Bat. And I love native stories. They ramble on like a Norm Macdonald joke. They're really, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're sad. This one is a little bit of both. So Mad Bat. Back in the day, there were many people who lived in the village, and out of all the people, there was a bad-tempered person, and his name was Bat. And one day, his brothers decided to go hunting. They said, let's go hunting, but they didn't take Bat along. Bat followed them along down to their camping spot. In the morning, they went hunting. They went up the mountain, and they got a deer, and they brought it back, and they divided it up. They put the meat into bundles, and they got it ready to take home. And Bat followed them home. While he was home, his sister-in-law came up to him, and he spoke to his sister-in-law and said, "Make me some acorn soup." But she said, "The acorns aren't bleached yet." And so Bat got angry, and he shot his sister-in-law. He shot her with arrows. Later, his brother was crying. He said, water draggedy, my ding-along. Stop mourning for this woman." And he could see that his brother was really upset that he killed his sister-in-law. So Bat flew far and wide, and he ran into this old man. And he said to the old man, who had two women with him, he said, "I'll trade you these arrows for the women." And the old man was really afraid of Bat and his erratic behavior. So he said to the women, "Pack your baskets and go with him. Best not to make him angry." And Bat brings back the women, and he brings them back to his brothers, and they were a little appeased, but later that night they all circled his house, circled Bat, circled his hut, and they lit it on fire. And Bat didn't like this very much, and he flew out of the flames, and he took his bow and arrow and he started shooting, and they shot back at Bat, but they couldn't hit Bat. He was too agile, he was too darty. So Bat single-handedly killed all of them. And the ones who weren't there, weren't trying to burn down his house, were his brothers. They decided that they would go hunting again. And they went down to the hunting spot, and they said, "We shouldn't bring Bat. He's bad-tempered. He's just not good to be around. He's a danger." So they didn't bring him hunting, but he followed them. He knew where the campground was, Bat, and he followed them down there. They went hunting, and by dusk they brought back the deer, and they quartered it up, and they put all the meat into bundles, and they went down the mountain. And then Bat started following them, and he said to them, "Think on sinew more or less." And they thought about that quizzically. Like, what do you mean? Think on sinew more or less, he repeated. And they pointed to the back sinew of the deer. And they said, "Is this what you mean?" And he said, "Think on sinew more or less." And clearly they were getting upset with Bat, and they pointed to the heart. And they said, "Is this what you're talking about?" And he said, "Think on sinew more or less." And they pointed to the lungs. "Think on sinew more or less." And they finally threw up their hands and said, "He's bad-tempered. Just leave him alone." So Bat, later that night, found a pair of antlers hanging on a sapling, and he slept in those antlers all through the night. And the people his brothers went back to the village, and they slept through the night. And in the morning they woke up and said, "He didn't follow us. He must have ran away. We gotta stay away from that magically powerful man. We don't know what he's capable of." And they started to walk along the path, and they saw the pair of antlers hanging from the sapling, and they kicked it. And Bat sprung out, and he was sleeping in the antlers, and he said, "That's what I was talking about," referring to the antlers. Think on sinew more or less. He was referring to the antlers. And so the people went back to the village, and they decided that they would have a feast. And they waited a couple of days, and they made sure the time was right, and they made sure to have the feast away from Bat, because they knew he was unpredictable, because he was bad-tempered. So they all came to the longhouse to have the feast. He crawled in the entrance. He saw his brothers and sisters-in-law, and he said, and they saw Bat, and she set some manzanita berries on a plate in front of Bat, and Bat said to him, "I'm not going to eat that bear shit," and he kicked the plate. They were all standing around terrorized. They tried to grab him, but he dodged. They all tried to reach for him and grab him, but he dodged. He was too flighty, he was too darty. Bat grabbed his bow and arrow and started shooting. He shot all his arrows, and he killed them all. His brothers spent the night gambling. They took no notice of Bat. Then Bat flies out, and he finds another old man with another set of daughters, and he says to the old man, "Here, take these arrows. Take these arrows, and I will take the girls." And the man, recognizing that this is a scary, crazy person, complies and says, "Pack your baskets, girls. You're going with them." And later that day, Bat saw a cloud in the sky. He got a wild idea inside of him. He started to chase the cloud. He was in a race with the cloud, and he raced all the way up a mountain, and the cloud zipped over the mountain, and Bat followed him, and down over the mountain. Bat followed him, and he kept following this cloud. He was in a race with this cloud, Mad Bat. And then Coyote came along, and he saw Bat chasing Cloud, and he said, "Hey there, cousin. What are you doing? That looks like a fine idea. I think I'll join you." And so Coyote joins the race, and he's following Bat, following the Cloud, and they go up the mountain, and they're just neck and neck with the Cloud, and they go down the mountain, and they're keeping good pace. But then Coyote falls into a ravine, falls on some rocks, breaks his neck, and dies. And then Bat chases Cloud to a waterfall. And at the waterfall, there's the weasel bird, and he has a net. And Bat falls into weasel bird's net, and he dies. And weasel bird says to Bat, "You'll never again be a killer of people. You'll never again be a danger to people. You'll fly around in the dark, and when the morning comes, you will hide in the tree. You will be nothing but an animal now." So that's the story of Mad Bat, more or less. It's a translation. That story was collected in 1902, so it's very possible that the story is no longer told within the native Maidu community, and it's unlikely that you'll ever hear that story again. And I dedicate this to spiritual perverts like James Talarico and Neil Gaiman, because they don't appreciate the scope of not just native storytelling, but also their own culture very well. They don't understand their own culture very well, and it perverts something in you. Pervert, that means to turn around. So happy Easter, have fun, be safe, don't let the Easter bunny get you, or whatever the fuck it is. Worship Jesus like you should, and try to have fun. Yeah.